Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Adult AML Chapter event brought to you by the HealthTree Community for AML program. My name is Katie Braswell, and I'm the HealthTree for AML Community Director. I'm very grateful to have each of you here for our meeting today and for your support in building this Adult AML community. I'd like to let you know that today's session will be recorded, and the recording, along with the slides and any resources we discussed today, will be sent via email to all registrants within 48 hours after the event has concluded. I'd like to start with a brief Zoom meeting tutorial for those of you that are new to using the platform. We'd love for you all to keep your cameras on if you feel comfortable. Doing so helps us to create a stronger sense of community. You can see on the slide how to turn on your camera. At the bottom of your screen, you should see a microphone and camera buttons. You can click the video icon that says Start Video in order to turn your camera on. With that being said, if you're not comfortable being recorded, you're not required to keep your camera on. Your microphone should be currently off and will be kept off by our team throughout the presentation. During the group discussion, you're welcome to unmute yourself once you're called upon. If you have any questions or comments for us or for our speaker throughout her presentation, please click the chat icon and type them in the chat box. If you are using a mobile device or tablet, click the three-dot icon that says More and then Chat in order to access the chat box. And lastly, if you would prefer to verbally ask a question or make a comment directly to our speaker during the discussion time at the end, we encourage you to do so. If you're using a laptop or desktop computer, click Reactions near the bottom of your screen and then click Raise Hand. If you're using a mobile device or tablet, you can click the three horizontal dots that say More and then click the Raise Hand button. And now let's get started with today's event. First, I'd like to thank our sponsors, without whom this event would not be possible: Bristol Myers Squibb, Amgen, Genentech, AbbVie, and Jazz Pharmaceuticals. The topic of our event today is titled Finding Mental Strength Through Physical Activity. Here's the agenda for today. I will introduce our speaker, Linnley Sweeney, and she will spend the next 30 minutes or so giving us her presentation. After the presentation, we will open it up for your questions and comments and end the event with a few announcements. So let me take a second to introduce our speaker, Linnley Sweeney. Linnley joined HealthTree in January 2020 as the Foundation's fitness director to share her passion for health. She has a bachelor's degree in public health, is a certified personal trainer, and an advanced cancer exercise specialist. Her husband is a childhood cancer survivor as well as a cancer biologist. Finding a cure, better treatments, and balancing life through treatment is a huge passion for their family. She is a mom of an energetic 6-year-old, marathon runner, and Ironman finisher. Fitness has been a huge part of her life, and she loves to share it with others. And so with that, Linnley, I'll let you go ahead and get started.
Thanks so much, Katie. I'm excited to be here today and to share this topic. So I will share my slides. Hopefully that worked. All right. So our topic today is finding mental strength through physical activity. I chose this topic because many are experiencing chronic stress and feeling the negative effects of that stress. Many common causes of stress just in our normal daily lives comes from our health status, getting regular blood work, treatments, trying to get more answers, work, financial stress, relationships, the worry of the future. There's a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves as well in order to accomplish the things that we have going on. These stresses can weigh heavily on you and can end up causing a negative impact on your health. High levels of stress can have an impact not on your whole body, but also your mind. Much of our stress has to do with unrealistic expectations and worry. So some of the main effects that chronic stress can cause are a decreased brain function, so a delay to your reaction time, ability to think efficiently and clearly, so oftentimes like foggy, also memory. So it can reduce your ability to remember and retain some information because our minds are so overloaded with a lot of other things. Inflammation can increase in your body and can further impact sickness and reduce your immune system. Weight gain is a very common factor of chronic high stress. Often with the high stress, it changes your eating patterns, your sleep patterns, as well as the high levels of the cortisol hormone can reduce your ability to lose weight. And a lot of times with that, it creates more stress because we get stressed about wanting to lose weight and not happening. And so it becomes a cycle of continually struggling with that. Lack of sleep. Sleep is essential for our body's healing and function. With high stress, quality and quantity of sleep is severely reduced and can affect hormone production and response. So how to manage stress? While stress can be overwhelming and all the things that you may have on your plate right now, it's important to take time for things that can help you reduce that stress. So the most commonly suggested things are, number one, exercise. Number two, relax your muscles. So being able to relax, do yoga, get a massage, just kind of allow your body to kind of calm down for a minute. Deep breathing, that also goes with that relaxing, doing meditation, being able to do some mental imagery as well. Sometimes is something that you can channel and focus on the things that are most important in your mind and releasing out negative thoughts, and that can help reduce some of those stresses. Good nutrition. Oftentimes when we do our stress eating, we have negative thoughts and it creates guilt and it creates more stress. So sometimes we find more success and more pride in ourselves as we eat better. And it also improves our immune system and our body's responses to things. Slow down. Being able to prioritize the things that are important. The number one thing to remember is that we don't have to do everything, and we don't have to do everything today. So finding out and prioritizing the things that are most important and focusing on that. Taking a break. Schedule some time for yourself to have moments of freedom. Notice how I said schedule that time. A lot of times our days get flooded with a lot of things, a lot of appointments, family things, our to-do lists, laundry, whatever. And if we don't schedule that time for ourselves, then we can get so caught up in everything else of the day that we end up as our last priority. So make sure that you make time for yourself to be able to relax and have that moment to breathe and to just be. Make time for hobbies. Do things that bring you joy, can help reduce your stress. And last but not least, talk about your problems. Meeting with a support group, talking with a spouse or family member that can listen, or find a wonderful therapist. One more thing I'll add about talking about your problems. When talking to someone who is close to you, always let them know if you're just venting to let it out or if you want them to help you fix it. I think a lot of times when we want to share, we share with the person that wants to help and fix because they love us. And sometimes we just need to get it out and start fresh. And sometimes we do need that help. So it's important to communicate when you're talking to support group, therapist, family member, what your hope is to get out of talking about how you're feeling. All right, how to manage stress continued. So exercise is the number one recommended way when looking to reduce stress. It helps combat depression and anxiety and helps you to focus more clearly on the things that are of most importance. So I'd like to focus on that topic more today. So I'm going to go through a few things to keep in mind when performing and starting an exercise routine. First and foremost, always consult with your specialist before you start or change an exercise program. If it's important to find out what you should avoid. And a lot of times it's hard to think about the things that you cannot do. But in order to find out what you can do, you've got to find out the things that might not be best. So a lot of times it's a twisting movement that can cause injury, too much of a load. So adding too much weight onto exercise can cause injury or harm. And there's other ways to do it. So if you want to avoid twisting, performing exercises that don't cause that twist, where you're working more on stabilizing your core. And your core is your abdominals, your obliques, and your back. So stabilizing all of those muscles helps keep you stronger and avoiding any potential injuries. As far as adding extra weight when performing exercises, it's important to start with your body weight or resistance bands. Those kinds of things can help us progress in our strength before adding any additional load. And then also focusing on your balance. As we age, our balance naturally just gets worse. There's so many options of what you can do and how you can modify. So it's okay to find out what's not okay. And then you can figure out what you can do. So let's go over the benefits of exercise. Number one, reduces overall fatigue and tiredness. A lot of people, depending on their drugs, the treatments that they're on, where they're at in their treatments, fatigue and tiredness is one of the most common symptoms and complaints. So figuring out that borderline between I'm too fatigued to do this and it can cause harm, or the fatigue, you can get through it by performing exercise. And that's something that you can talk about with your doctor about figuring out that fatigue scale, because of most patients that work through some of their fatigue, whether that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes of activity, they feel better. It kind of gets them out of that fog of some of that fatigue. And notice how I said 5 to 10 minutes. Exercise does not have to be an hour. It's what you can do. Exercise regularly can help improve your stamina. It improves flexibility and mobility. Those are very important as we age to help us reduce being a fall risk. So exercise decreases fall risk while improving your balance. And most importantly, exercise improves your mood, because by performing exercise, there's a few things that happen. Number one, release of endorphins, which can help reduce your cortisol levels, reduce that stress hormone. But also, as you perform that exercise, it can boost your confidence. So it can improve your mood by feeling confident in what you accomplish. By doing exercise, it can help you improve your overall quality of life, no matter what's going on. By finding the wins and finding the successes that you can accomplish through what you can do, can help with that mental toughness. All right, so how to get started? The best way to start, there's some basic guidelines that you can choose to follow when starting. Oh, might have been on my last slide. Yeah. Number 8 was start low and go slow. So when starting new exercise, we don't need to go all out intensity, keep that intensity low. Perform your exercise, your strength training, resistance in slow repetitions to help you get to where you want to go. So cardio, it's recommended at least 2 times per week. So low impact options are walking and swimming. There's also hiking and biking. It's important to get approval to go outdoor biking. Recumbents are awesome. But most importantly, start with what you can. So the goal is to work up to 30 minutes of cardio activity. But like I said before, if what you can do is 5 minutes of walking around your house, or 5 minutes or a few minutes walking out to your mailbox and back, that is a success and that is an accomplishment. So starting where you're at and you can push yourself a little by little to work your way up for time. And always try different cardio options. If you can go to a gym, there's a lot of different equipment like ellipticals, recumbent bikes, spin bikes, treadmills for walking. Those kinds of things can help you feel more stabilized while doing cardio or going outside for a walk, going to a pool for swimming. Those kinds of things are also awesome. All right, focusing now on strength training. So the recommendations are 1 to 3 times a week, depending on your limitations. I would say starting 1 to 2 days a week, making sure that you have a rest day in between your exercise days. As you get started, fatigue can be something that you definitely battle. And so taking rest days is as important as a training day. If you feel good enough to do a resistance day and then a cardio day and then follow up with another resistance day, kind of sandwiching them, that's another great way to structure your activity each week. Do not continue any exercise if it causes pain or discomfort. So it's important to know the difference between pain that could cause an injury versus muscle discomfort because you're pushing yourself, you're starting a new program or something. So pain is typically sudden and sharp, whereas discomfort is like a muscle ache. There's a very distinct difference between those two feelings. So it's important to know that difference. Strength training does not require weights. So you don't need to go to the gym and go to the dumbbells or the squat rack in order to get a great strength training workout. You can use your body weight. You can use resistance bands. Those kinds of things are great for seeing where your body's at and going up from there. And don't forget about your balance. Improving your balance is key for helping you stay strong in all these areas so that you're more stable when doing cardio and your strength will come a long way as you improve your balance. And as a reminder, we all start from somewhere. So it doesn't matter where you're starting. What matters is that you keep going and that you keep showing up. All right. So it's important to always warm up before getting into your main exercises. Beginner or advanced, a good warm-up can be what keeps you moving and stay injury-free. So the recommendation is to do each exercise 10 repetitions each. Because it's a warm-up, you don't need to repeat these series of exercises multiple times. You just do 10 repetitions of each exercise and then move on to the rest of your strength training. So I'm going to talk you through each of these exercises, and if you want to do it while you're in your chair to see what it feels like as I talk you through it, go for it. So a seated march, it's as it sounds. So make sure that you are in a good stable chair that you feel confident to use. So you're going to sit upright, keeping your core tight, and you're going to lift one leg up, keeping the knee bent, and place it down. Lift the other leg and down. You're going to repeat each side. So it's as if you're marching, keeping your core tight, lifting up your leg each time. Then there's the seated push-pull. I'm going to scoot my chair back a little bit. So seated push-pull, in that same position where you're seated in a chair, feet flat on the floor, you're going to reach your arms forward, shoulder width apart, and then you're going to pull back, squeezing your shoulder blades. Keeping that core tight. So pushing forward, engaging your chest, and squeezing back between your shoulder blades. Going forward and back, keeping your core tight. All right, so from our push-pull, then we're going to go to our seated arm march. So just like the legs, We're going to lift one arm up. And then as that one's coming down, you're going to raise the other one up, keeping your core tight. Bring it up and down. Breathing through the exercise. Make sure you don't hold your breath. All right. Bring your arms down and we're going to do some shoulder rolls. So bring your shoulders up and roll it back. Up and back. Do that a few times. Breathing out. Letting that stress come off your shoulders. All right, now we're going to roll forward. Rolling it forward. All right, let's go back and forward. Back and forward. And breathe it out. All right, this next one is going to really test your coordination. We're going to do the seated arm and leg march. So just like the arm march where you're moving your arms kind of at the same time, you're going to lift the opposite knee and opposite knee, keeping that core tight. You're engaging your quads and your shoulders, your abdominals and your obliques, switching each one. All right, so that is a good warm-up because you're engaging your core, you're engaging your upper body, as well as getting your legs warmed up. So for balance exercises, and then we'll go into a full body seated routine. So for balance, it's important, especially as we age. It's important to do it, and it can happen. You can practice your balance anytime, any day. So as always, start with low repetitions, slow movements. If you need a wall for stability or a chair, do so. There's no shame in needing a chair to help you balance. So the first one is a single leg balance. So kind of like the girl in the picture, but not that advanced. Standing on one foot and just balancing for as many seconds as you can on that one foot, and then switching to the other side. You can raise your arms overhead while balancing. You can raise one arm. You can do the arm swings as you balance if you're super coordinated. So you can challenge your balance in a few different ways. Then there's the tandem stance. So this one is actually harder than you think it would be. So you will stand one foot in front of the other. So heel to toe standing. Your heel will be touching your toes. You're staying right in line. And just try and standing like that. It's important to stand next to a wall or a chair because you could tip. Definitely recommend trying the tandem stance. A standing abduction. So this one is going to engage more of your glutes and your hips and not just your foot balance, foot strength. So standing feet shoulder width apart, and you're going to either hold on to something or be close to something if you need to hold on, and raising your leg out and bringing it back down. It's called an abduction because you're taking it out before you bring it back in. And then you switch each leg when you come back. And then a standing kickback is similar to the abduction. You're standing feet apart and you're going to kick one leg back, trying to stay balanced on the one foot and then come back and repeat each leg. All right, so seated exercises. Seated body weight or with a light resistance band can be a great way to start. And it can be great whether you're a beginner or advanced because resistance band is tricky and the harder resistance you get, the tougher it gets. So there's many practical connections as to why these exercises are important. So first we have a sit to stand. It helps gain muscle strength in your legs, specifically your quads, your hamstrings, and your glutes. Those are important muscles for being able to get yourself in and out of a chair, on and off the toilet, in and out of the car, and out of bed. So these kinds of movements can help you maintain strength to do normal daily activities. So sit to stand is as it sounds. So sitting down into a chair and standing back up. The goal is to do it no hands. Some people need the arms of their chair to stand up, and that's great. The goal is to work on not needing it. So trying to push yourself so that you can do a sit to stand unassisted. The seated lat pull down. You all can do this with me right now. So raising your arms up overhead and then bringing your arms down, bending at the elbows, keeping your back engaged, and then going back up. So you're squeezing your shoulder blades together as you come down. So pulling it down, keeping your elbows out, and then back up. So that is that seated lat pull down. A way that you can do that with a resistance band is having the band between your two hands and pulling it. And as you pull, your hands come apart, it pulls the resistance and makes it a lot harder. So, and that's always a great warm up for doing weight training as well, adding weights. All right, seated row, reaching forward, scoot back. So reaching forward and squeezing your elbows back. Coming forward, squeeze those elbows back. So it's as if you're pulling something, squeeze back, and then forward. And you can do it one arm at a time if you want to kind of focus on keeping that core tight, or both arms at the same time. All right, and then there are seated calf raises. Sounds funny. So you place your feet flat on the floor. This is another great balance exercise, but also it's great for strengthening your calves. Feet flat on the floor. So while sitting, stay seated. You're going to push your heels up as if you'd be going up on your toes and then back down. So coming up on your toes and then going back down. So that is a seated calf raise. You're engaging your calves. Not a crazy movement, but you're engaging your calves, and that's going to help strengthen your entire posterior chain with the seated calf raises and the sit to stand. All of that's important for a lot of things that we do every day. All right, the next thing, back to our upper body, the seated Arnold Press. So this helps engage your chest, your back, and your shoulders. So it's a multi-movement exercise, and it helps keep healthy shoulders without overstraining. Okay, so the Arnold Press, you're going to start with your, like you're going to punch someone. Okay, arms in front, bent at an angle here, come out and press up, come down the same way, and then go forward. So you're engaging your chest here, squeezing your back and pushing up with your shoulders, and then come down, come forward, and repeat. So that helps with that range of motion in your shoulders. Because you're not adding a load with it, you're not adding weight, it can help with rotator cuff strength issues as well. All right, finally, our seated leg extension. So this can be done single leg or both legs at the same time. And this one's an easy one to add a resistance band as well. So sitting down, feet flat on the ground, 90-degree angle at your knees. So you'll kick your legs up as if, so you kick your legs up and then come down. Kick your legs up and come down. Working on contracting and engaging your quads, the top of your thigh as you kick out and come back down. So you can do single leg if that's easier, or the double leg. Coming it out, keeping your core tight. And when I say keep your core tight, it's think as if you're sucking in your belly button and engaging all of those muscles and performing the exercise while you hold that tight. That helps keep everything stabilized. So the way to add a resistance band to the leg extension is loop it through your chair and either strap it or like have the band on your shins. And that as you kick out, that resistance band gets pulled, and that adds resistance and it adds strength to your exercise. All right. Now we will turn our time over to questions. So thank you, Katie, for letting me come and share.
Yeah, this was excellent. Thank you so much, Linnley. I imagine for some of you who followed along, you weren't really expecting to maybe break a sweat today, but Linnley walked us through it and taught us some great exercises that can meet the needs of a lot of people, no matter where we are in our movement journey or in our AML treatment. So I think that was really excellent. We can open it up for questions and comments now. We're a bit of a small group, so feel free to pop off mute. No need to raise your hand. I'm sure we won't be talking over each other too much. It won't get crazy. But I'd like to post something maybe to the group to kick off discussion. And I'd really love to hear what some of your own personal stressors are. And maybe we can learn from each other as a group. If you're able to identify these stressors and maybe talk about some things that you've noticed that have been helpful. The more we share these things, the more we can learn and maybe adopt them for ourselves. So if you want to maybe contribute that to the discussion or put it in the chat and we can read through those. But I think that'd be a helpful learning experience for all of us. And I'd love to hear your wins in terms of movement. How have you been able to incorporate movement successfully? And what are the benefits you've noticed from it? So I think those are great starting points. If anybody would like to share, I'll give it a few seconds.
Hey, Katie, one thing I'll share that was important when my husband was going through his AML journey. I think it's important to note just the little incremental wins and not making it, not putting pressure on yourself to, you may have had a much different routine or, idea of working out before treatment, and just doing something I think is important. I know, my husband was an active tennis player and very fit before AML, and he liked to have a goal. So I got him an Apple Watch, and he would do just laps around the hospital floor. And he, made lots of friends that way, which, not everyone is that chatty, but that for him was a way to have a goal in mind. He was goal oriented that way. So it isn't about like what, how hard it is or the strenuous, but I think just moving and getting the blood flowing. And I think even if you're, to the point where you're, can't even, maybe if you're in the bed, even just, Linnley gave us some good things where you don't necessarily have to get up. So I think that that's important. And the other thing that Linnley mentioned that I think that's really important is is the breathing, because there's a lot of research, and there's a whole book that I want to read called Breathe. And just doing, a couple of minutes of breathing, I think is so important to kind of bring back, if you're, going through a stressful period, to bring yourself back to, the present and focus. And I know that I need to do more of that myself in my day-to-day, and kind of managing stress myself. My husband passed, it'll be 4 years. And so I feel like I'm trying to manage my daughter, and it's just a lot. So I think, and everybody's dealing with a lot with COVID and illness, and so much these days. So I think the breathing is really important. And there's a lot of apps, where you can just do like 2-minute breathings. And there's one that I really like, that's called Heart Math. And it gives you like this color wheel. And you do need to buy like this extra piece that goes with it. But anyway, there's lots of different apps. And I think the breathing can be really powerful as well.
Yeah, those are excellent points. I think to your first point, it's focusing on what you can do, because we can get really disheartened in what we can't do when we compare ourselves pre-diagnosis to where we are now. And it can be upsetting when we're not able to achieve that same level, but to shift your mindset in a way to having smaller goals and working up to them, and focusing on what's possible in this very moment. That's really important. I think the breathing too, maybe we can figure out which book specifically you're mentioning, and
I'll find it.
I'd love to send that out in the resources.
Yes.
Our post-event email. And two, Linnley's exercises she went through today, we'll be sending those out to everybody as well. And hopefully putting a little explanation behind it so you can remember what she walked us through, but you'll have the recording to reference as well. A note here from Juliet, who did excellent in the exercise portion, by the way. I'm so happy you followed along. But she says regarding stressors, she finds it's helpful being active to reduce nausea when she's on chemo. She deliberately added an exercise as going up and down the stairs twice if I needed to get a couple things. And that's a really strong testament to how physical activity not just helps with our mental well-being, but it can help manage side effects as well. Might sound a little counterintuitive if you're dealing with nausea and thinking movement, you're kind of worried movement might make it worse, but there is a lot of research suggesting that movement and deep breathing specifically can help with nausea. So yeah, that's an excellent tip and excellent reason to incorporate movement. She also says, I try to do online Pilates. Her physio runs these and supported me to build up to the gentle exercises and managing the regular classes. That's excellent that you have that resource at your disposal. I'm glad you're taking advantage of that. Yoga is another thing we could maybe spend an hour on. I don't know about your yoga skills, Linnley, if you might be able to take us through a flow, but that would be excellent.
I could another day.
Awesome. Yeah, let's do it. I see a raised hand. Steve, would you like to contribute?
Hi there. Sorry, you're looking at my photo. My wife and I are both watching this. We've got a cast on the TV, but my phone was almost out of, I'm doing it from my phone. I'm almost out of power, so I'm not going to go on live, but I'm here. That's me.
Sure.
I'm this side of it. So just diagnosed and waiting for more DNA results, probably doing induction next week if everything looks favorable for that. Couple questions. One is, and this is really good stuff here. One is, will this session here be on YouTube available later or someplace?
With the charts.
Because I didn't catch all of some of those exercises were outstanding, and that ones that I don't know, I'm fit, and my wife Pat is a personal trainer, so I have to stay fit. But the other question is really for the group, which is knowing what you know now from a preparation physical activity standpoint. It sounds like that staying very active, even if you're in the hospital for a few weeks, is a really good thing. And I just wanted any additional color commentary on what's good and what's not good in that setting.
Yeah, I think so. So question one, yes, it will be posted online. You'll get an email with the recording, but it will also be on YouTube for you to reference as many times as you would like. Happy to have you as a newly diagnosed, in the newly diagnosed setting. I'm sure there's a lot of things to take in, and maybe I'd love to connect further to help put you in the direction of even more resources. So I'm glad we're here and talking early. I think that's a great question for our patients online. I think Juliet, and I see Mark's here on his iPhone. I'd love to hear if they have any thoughts or can contribute to that.
Yeah, I'd just like to back up what others have said. Linnley, the exercises were great because it was one of the things I struggled with when I was inside doing the chemo routines from the beginning, and I was on a 7+3 cytarabine daunorubicin one. But just the only thing that I had to watch because I had a PICC line. So I found that my arm reacted badly to stretches, but I just moderated apart from that. But I think I find having a list of exercises like what you've given me very, very helpful. Otherwise, I flop if I'm just left to my own devices and I'm not so good. But if somebody gives me a list, I will follow them. So I think that was really, really good.
Excellent. Yeah, Steve. Oh, did I see Mark?
Yeah,
Oh, hello.
I figured this out.
Great.
Anyway, right? Yeah, one of my things was motivation to start the exercises and stuff like that. I find it very hard. And then we do walk. We walk about 2 miles now. I'm going for my 2-year transplant anniversary biopsy next week.
Great.
And right now, currently in complete remission. So
Excellent.
it's positive, but the exercise is the problem.
Excellent. Yeah. So Steve, it sounds like having something concrete to follow, as you're in the hospital receiving treatment, having some sort of set plan in place is what I'm hearing has helped people be successful. And maybe seeing what resources at the hospital are available to you, in that maybe bringing on a physical therapist early and occupational therapist early, bringing in social work to see what sort of movement resources are there at the hospital for you, having a routine and having something set in stone that is modifiable, depending on how you feel for the day. Certainly listening to that would be helpful to spur the motivation and to spur, moving around. I've found that too, a lot of patients I've heard from find it useful from a social perspective as well, getting to know the team on the floor, the nurses, making your lap, as you're able around the floor that you're on. has helped from a mental health perspective as well, instead of, being confined to the room. So when you're able to get out, that helps a lot as well.
Yeah, they did at the hospital. When I was in the hospital numerous times, they were very good, helpful with that part of it. It's more the home part now. Being home, getting motivated to do some of these exercises, it's like between the legs not working as good as they should because of the prednisone that I'm on for GVHD and things like that. It just screws up the muscles.
Certainly. So going from an environment where you're monitored 24/7 to having a bit more freedom, which is good in a sense, but having to really push and do those things on your own, it's certainly a shift.
Oh, no question. Yeah, I did the telehealth physical therapy for a while last year. So now I'm just dealing with a little GVHD now, but just the motivation type of stuff that you have to get, I guess, to get out and do it, I guess.
Absolutely. Linnley, any tips on motivation?
So one of my big tips is, number one, tell someone what your intention is. So if you have a spouse that can keep you accountable, say, I plan on doing 3 days this week of exercise, and then reporting to them back that you did it. Sometimes feeling like you need to report to someone keeps you to actually do it. And that can help find that accountability, or have them do it with you.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
Thank you, Leslie. That was very good. And unfortunately, Pat heard you when you said have your spouse hold you accountable. But and Katie, I will reach out to you definitely. This is a terrific set of resources that we've just discovered here on the last few days. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sorry for the news you've recently received, but I hope that some of our resources can help ease your journey a bit. We host these monthly, and so I hope you continue to join us on a variety of topics. And so, I'd love to talk more. My email is katie@healthtree.org, or I'm happy to send you an email if that's easier, but certainly here for you as you start this journey.
Yeah, will do. And I have your email ID actually as a reminder for this session. So I've got it. I'll reach out. Thank you.
Perfect. I look forward to talking more. Okay. I missed something from Juliet. She said, agreed, the exercises from Linnley are great. I wish I had these in the hospital for weeks at a time. Yeah. So having that set curriculum, so we don't have to think about it on our own, one less thing off of our plate, one less thing to use our mind on. It's nice to have something to follow. So we'll certainly make sure you have these moving forward.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And I was just going to say, and I've spoken about this before, I think, but I just like to plug this because I think, and it's not related to exercise, but I think it helps the mind, which I think if you can help the mind, then I think you're able to, it also helps the motivation like Mark was talking about. But there's something called guided imagery, which my husband was not one that was going to meditate or do any of that. He was not going to do that. But guided imagery is more just listening. You don't have to, sit in like a Zen state, and you can fall asleep to listening to guided imagery, and it can be just someone talking and there's like music in the background. And so that's easier to some people than telling them to go meditate. And they have specific guided imagery for illness, stress, and different things. I think the one that I used was called Health Journeys, and there's like an app you can download. So I just wanted to mention that. And I believe the name of the book that is called Breath, and it's by James Nestor, and it's The New Science of a Lost Art. So
Great.
that's,
Thanks for finding that. I think, yeah, guided imagery is something I've learned quite a bit about too. And I think consulting a psychologist at your facility, and this might be helpful specifically for you, Steve. Something they've done a lot of research on lately is getting a palliative care team involved early on in your treatment course. And palliative care, people kind of like get kind of nervous when they hear that term, but it's completely different from hospice care. It's not end of life care in any way. It's a team of professionals that have been called in to work with your AML team as you receive treatment. And they really help to manage side effects, mental health, all of those extra components outside of AML treatment. And so they've done a lot of work on bringing that team in early can have significant effects on your treatment course. And a psychologist is a piece of that team generally who can work you through these guided imagery approaches and various mental health techniques, deep breathing exercises, things like that help with the mental health component, but also the side effect management. So that might be something to consider speaking with your team about early on in the process. Okay, well, we're getting close to the end. Do we have any other comments, anything else we want to talk about or questions for Linnley before we wrap up?
I'd like to kind of circle back to your question about stressors and some things we do to manage them. I have found that for me, I get anxiety in a lot of situations. When you said what causes you anxiety, just too many things popped into my mind. But what I can do that helps is kind of name the stressor. It was initially when I started doing it, it felt kind of silly, but I just get one of those emotion wheels and just Google them online, and they break up they kind of give words to the stresses or the anxiety that you're feeling. And that's been really helpful for me because it kind of gives me power over the emotion. And so I went from labeling everything as stress or anxiety to being able to say, this is overwhelming, or this makes me upset. And being able to recognize a little bit deeper what those emotions are has given me more control over those emotions.
That's excellent. Yeah, I'd love to see that wheel. That's something new to me, but I've noticed that as well. Things get jumbled in our heads, and when we pull out what it actually is that we think the stressor is, and even if you just say it out loud, it kind of suppresses it a little bit. It makes it feel not as overwhelming. That's a really good way to manage it. Okay, well, let me share my screen so we can wrap up. I'd like to talk to you about our upcoming event. So our next chapter meeting will take place on July 27th from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern. We have Dr. Kira, who's an AML expert from the Mayo Clinic in Phoenix. She's going to speak to us on the topic of AML survivorship, challenges, and opportunities. You can find the registration for this page probably next week, but others as well on our website, healthtree.org/AML/community/events. Once again, thank you to our sponsors, Bristol Myers Squibb, Amgen, Genentech, AbbVie, and Jazz Pharmaceuticals. And thank you for helping us to build a strong HealthTree community for AML. I appreciate you all. Hope you have a great rest of your day and can't wait to see you again on July 27th.
thanks, Katie.
Bye.